Jamie Foxx, known for his charm, his talent, and his flawless confidence, didn't walk into that courtroom as a performer. He walked in as a man haunted by a night he wishes he could erase. What started as a simple invitation to a party at Diddy's infamous mansion spiraled into something much darker, something he says changed his life forever. He trembled, he broke down, and in front of a silent jury he described what he witnessed behind those velvet ropes. Hidden rooms, locked doors, cameras in the shadows, footage no one was meant to see, and a machine bigger than Diddy, bigger than music, that protects it all. This isn't a tabloid headline. This is testimony. And if even a fraction of what Jamie said is true, then everything you thought you knew about Hollywood is about to change. The courtroom was silent when Jamie Foxx took the stand, but he wasn't the Jamie the world knew, not the Oscar-winning actor, not the smooth-talking showman. This man looked shaken, like someone who had been carrying a secret far too long. His hands trembled as he raised them. His voice cracked before he even finished his name. And then he broke, sobbing, screaming, in front of the jury. What triggered the breakdown was the memory of one night at Sean Diddy Combs' mansion. A night that, according to Fox, wasn't just wild. It was orchestrated, scripted, calculated. And it was the night, he says, everything changed. Fox described being invited to what he thought was a typical after-party. Lavish, luxurious, filled with celebrities and high-end energy. Diddy's house was where the deals happened, he said, where the music lived. It felt like a palace of influence. But what he didn't know, what no one had warned him about, was that some rooms weren't meant for entertainment. They were meant for initiation. Late into the evening, after hours of champagne, music, and indulgence, Fox said he was quietly pulled aside and escorted down a dim hallway into a separate wing of the mansion. He didn't recognize the people around him. They weren't artists or producers. They weren't smiling. They looked uneasy, out of place. They told me to stay, to relax, Fox whispered from the stand. That Diddy had a surprise. What came next, he said, still haunts him. The lights dimmed, the laughter faded, and the atmosphere shifted from glamorous to eerie. He was led into a soundproof theater, where a video had already been cued. I didn't know what I was watching, he testified. I didn't know if it was real or staged, but I know how it made me feel. His stomach dropped. He tried to leave. The doors were locked. They told me, everyone who's somebody has been through this, he said, eyes red, voice unsteady. I wanted to scream, but I froze. What he saw in that room was never fully described in court. But whatever it was, it shattered something inside Jamie Foxx, and the scars it left, they were only the beginning. Jamie Foxx sat frozen in that soundproof room, surrounded by silence and secrets. The theater screen glowed with flickering shadows. What played in front of him wasn't a movie. It was something else, something twisted. I didn't know if it was real, he told the court, but I know it wasn't right. The footage wasn't entertainment. It was a warning, a ritual. Fox said he felt his pulse quicken, his breathing shallow. He looked for a way out, but the doors were sealed. He wasn't watching by choice. He was being shown something on purpose. This is where we bond, one of Diddy's aides allegedly told him. Bond? As in trust? No, as in leverage. Fox remembered the flickering of the screen, the eerie quiet, and then the voice of someone off camera saying, everyone important has sat in that seat. Everyone. The video played on. Fox didn't share exact details, but he said it was the most disturbing thing he'd ever seen. I've been on hundreds of sets. I've played killers, addicts, men at war, but I never saw anything like that. When the screen went black, the lights didn't come back on. No one clapped. No one laughed. Instead, someone handed him a drink. This'll calm your nerves, they said. He refused. When he finally managed to get out of the room, he said he felt numb, like he had walked through a different dimension. The rest of the party still carried on in other wings of the house. Music, laughter, dancing. But Jamie didn't go back. He went to a guest room and locked the door behind him. I didn't sleep that night, he said, and I haven't slept right since. The courtroom hung on every word. A celebrity, an A-lister, had just admitted under oath that he had witnessed something so dark, so orchestrated, that it stripped away all illusion of glamour. This wasn't just a bad party experience. It was trauma. Jamie paused, looked at the jury and said, that house, it wasn't a mansion. It was a machine. A place where power was traded for silence. But what came after that night would be even more terrifying. Jamie Foxx left Diddy's mansion, but the night never really ended. According to his testimony, the real consequences didn't hit until days later, when the silence turned into surveillance. At first, it was subtle. A few strange calls. A couple of voicemails from unknown numbers. Then came the offer. Foxx testified that he was approached through intermediaries. People he knew from the industry, people he thought were friends, suddenly started checking in. But they weren't checking in on his well-being. They were delivering a message: there's a way to make this all go away. He was offered a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA wrapped in a check with 7 zeros, 7 figures just to stay quiet. No interviews, no press, just silence. All he had to do was sign. He refused, and that's when the freeze-out began. Foxx described it as a slow erasure. Projects that were greenlit suddenly went cold. Production meetings were postponed indefinitely. Calls that used to come in daily stopped coming altogether. Producers ghosted him. Studios pretended they didn't have space. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was real, he told the court. I could feel the walls closing in. He didn't know who to trust, and he didn't know what was real anymore. He testified that colleagues began avoiding him at industry events. People he'd known for years suddenly looked the other way when he entered a room. It was like I'd been marked, he said. Like they knew I saw something I wasn't supposed to. Then came the worst part. He started hearing whispers, quiet, casual threats. Be careful. Don't stir things up. Not everyone's going to understand. These weren't overt threats, but they didn't need to be. The message was clear. Stay quiet or lose everything. Foxx told the courtroom he spent the next few years in a mental fog, second-guessing every move, every call, every handshake. I wasn't paranoid, he said. I was aware. There's a difference. And yet, despite the silence, despite the pressure, Jamie still refused to sign the NDA. He chose isolation over complicity. But the people behind the machine, they weren't done with him yet. What Jamie Foxx revealed next in court was darker than anyone expected. And it wasn't even about what he saw, but what he discovered afterward. According to Jamie, that night at Diddy's mansion was not an isolated event. It was part of a system, a machine built on leverage and silence. And the engine behind that machine? A hidden archive, a vault, one that, if it exists, could bring down careers, empires, even governments. Foxx testified that shortly after he refused the NDA, a former employee of Diddy's, someone who had worked security at the mansion, came forward privately. He didn't want money. He didn't want fame. He just wanted Jamie to know the truth. There's a room, he said, and it's not on any blueprint. According to the whistleblower, this room is a surveillance hub, a fortified chamber hidden deep within Diddy's estate. Inside were servers, hard drives, locked cabinets, monitors displaying real-time footage, hidden cameras scattered throughout the house, in bathrooms, lounges, even private suites. Foxx had never seen this room himself, but when a second and third source, former staffers who have since vanished from the public eye, corroborated the same details, the pieces began to fall into place. They kept everything, Foxx said on a stand. Every whisper, every mistake, every moment someone let their guard down. And it wasn't just celebrities. The footage reportedly included politicians, athletes, producers, people with everything to lose. Foxx called it a currency of secrets, a digital blackmail library designed to control, silence, and dominate. The court fell silent as Jamie explained how he later received a package. No return address, just his name scrawled in sharp black ink. Inside was a flash drive. On it, footage of himself, that night, in the theater. His face, his reactions, his horror. There was no sound, just grainy footage, and a final frame that read, "Just remember." Foxx said he stared at that screen for over an hour. And when he looked in the mirror afterward, he didn't recognize the man staring back. "I wasn't just a witness," he said. "I was now part of the archive, and the machine never forgets." The flash drive wasn't just a warning, it was a message. One Jamie Foxx understood instantly. He testified that after receiving the package, his instincts screamed that he was being watched. The footage showed his face in real time, how he reacted to what he was forced to witness that night. It wasn't filmed from the audience seats, it came from above, from behind, from a hidden camera placed without his knowledge. The message was chilling in its simplicity. "We see you. We own your silence." For days, Jamie said he didn't leave his home. He canceled meetings, shut off his phone, and stopped answering emails. But isolation didn't bring peace. It brought fear and paranoia. That's when the phone call came. It wasn't from a blocked number. It was handed to him, literally, outside a restaurant in Los Angeles. 2 men in suits approached him. No names, no introductions, just a phone. "He wants to talk," one said. Jamie took it, and on the other end was Diddy, calm, collected, chilling. "I hope you're not planning on saying anything you'll regret," Diddy reportedly said. "You're a legend, Jamie. Don't throw that away over something that isn't your business." He didn't shout, he didn't threaten, but the implication hit like a sledgehammer. Diddy had eyes on him. He could reach him anywhere, anytime. It wasn't a conversation, it was control, masked as concern. After that call, Jamie changed his phone, hired private security, began looking over his shoulder. And just when he thought he might be imagining things, a story broke in the gossip blogs, one that painted Jamie in a scandalous light, one that, according to him, was entirely fabricated. That wasn't just coincidence, he told the court. It was a message: we can destroy you with lies just as easily as we can destroy you with the truth. It wasn't just his career on the line anymore, it was his identity, his freedom, his safety. And the deeper he looked, the more he realized he wasn't the only one caught in this silent trap. Jamie Foxx was never meant to speak, but once he did, the dam began to crack. In court, he revealed he wasn't the only one who had witnessed what happened inside Diddy's mansion. He wasn't the only one pressured into silence, and he definitely wasn't the only one who'd received warnings. According to Jamie, 3 other high-profile entertainers were also there during similar parties, each of them household names. The court transcript redacted their identities, but multiple outlets speculated that one was a Grammy-winning rapper, another a late-night host adored by millions, and the third, a fiercely outspoken actress known for activism. Fox testified that over the years, each of them had confided in him, in hushed tones and backroom conversations. They had seen things, they had heard things, some were even filmed, but none of them had spoken publicly, not out of guilt, but out of fear. "You think I'm the only one?" Jamie asked the courtroom. "I'm not brave, I'm just tired." Then he described what he called the ritual. It wasn't a party, it wasn't even a secret gathering. It was something else entirely. Fox said he witnessed guests, some blindfolded, others visibly intoxicated, being escorted into a central room in the mansion. A theater-like space transformed into a stage of shadows. Diddy stood at the center, orchestrating it all with a disturbing smile. But what unnerved Jamie the most wasn't Diddy, it was the presence of handlers, men in suits who didn't mingle, didn't drink, didn't laugh. Their job was to control, to track, to ensure that everything, every movement, every face, every breakdown was recorded. Fox called them facilitators of leverage. He described the feeling not of being entertained, but surveilled, trapped, studied. And when the night ended, he returned to his guest room to find something waiting on the nightstand, a framed photo of him and Diddy from years ago. It hadn't been there before. On the back was a handwritten note: brotherhood. Jamie told the court, it wasn't friendship, it wasn't kinship, it was branding, ownership. And that's when he realized this wasn't just a party, it was a system. The deeper Jamie Foxx went into his testimony, the darker it became. What he described next wasn't just unsettling, it bordered on cinematic horror. Except this wasn't a movie. This was real life. He told a court about a part of Diddy's mansion that every guest was warned to avoid the upstairs level. "Don't go up there unless you're invited," they said. Jamie hadn't planned to. But during the chaos of the evening, as he searched for a restroom and tried to distance himself from the disturbing energy downstairs, he opened the wrong door. What he found was a staircase, dimly lit by emergency red bulbs, humming faintly with a strange mechanical buzz. He stepped forward cautiously. At the top of the stairs, 2 figures stood in silhouette, whispering. One of them looked down at Jamie, with cold, unblinking eyes. "You lost," the man asked flatly. Jamie apologized, backed away, and closed the door. But not before catching a glimpse of what looked like a thick black curtain hanging in the hallway above, beneath it a flickering white light blinking softly. "I knew that was where they kept the good stuff," Jamie said bitterly. "Not good like fun, good like evidence, secrets, control." He later learned from a friend, someone who had also been to the estate, that the upstairs level was where the meetings happened. When Jamie asked what kind of meetings, the friend replied, "The kind where people give up something to get something." That line haunted him for years. And then came the blackout night. Jamie recalled how, at around 2 a.m., the entire estate plunged into sudden darkness. The music cut off, lights blinked twice, and died. Panic wasn't widespread because, according to him, this wasn't a first-time occurrence. Guests froze, handlers moved silently, and a man in a tailored suit calmly ordered, "No phones, no cameras. Everyone back inside." Jamie crept through the hallway and peeked through a cracked door. What he saw made his blood run cold. Masked figures, restrained individuals, someone screaming. A woman calmly took notes on a clipboard. Then she saw him, smiled, and closed the door in his face. At that moment, Jamie realized this wasn't a party. This was theater, a ritual, a production of power. Just when it seemed the testimony couldn't go any deeper, Jamie Foxx dropped the bombshell that stunned even the most hardened observers in the courtroom. Months after his night at the mansion, after the flash drive, the threats, and the freeze-out, Jamie said he was approached by someone unexpected, an FBI agent. But this wasn't a formal interview. It wasn't part of a legal deposition. It was off the record, unofficial, and shadowed in secrecy. According to Jamie, the agent didn't even introduce himself by name. He simply said he'd been investigating Sean Combs for years, that there were over 30 sealed complaints tied to Diddy, allegations of trafficking, extortion, and abuse. But none had made it past a grand jury. Why? Jamie asked. The agent's answer was chilling. He's protected, top-level connections. People in places you wouldn't believe. But it didn't stop there. Jamie testified that the agent confided something else, something that left the courtroom breathless. He claimed that among the sealed documents was evidence that a former U.S. president had attended at least one of Diddy's exclusive fundraisers, the same kind of events where surveillance tapes were allegedly rolling, the same kind of nights where guests gave up more than just their privacy. Just when it seemed the testimony couldn't go any deeper, Jamie Foxx dropped the bombshell that stunned even the most hardened observers in the courtroom. Months after his night at the mansion, after the flash drive, the threats, and the freeze-out, Jamie said he was approached by someone unexpected, an FBI agent. But this wasn't a formal interview. It wasn't part of a legal deposition. It was off the record, unofficial, and shadowed in secrecy. According to Jamie, the agent didn't even introduce himself by name. He simply said he'd been investigating Sean Combs for years, that there were over 30 sealed complaints tied to Diddy, allegations of trafficking, extortion, and abuse. But none had made it past a grand jury. Why? Jamie asked. The agent's answer was chilling. He's protected, top-level connections. People in places you wouldn't believe. But it didn't stop there. Jamie testified that the agent confided something else, something that left the courtroom breathless. He claimed that among the sealed documents was evidence that a former U.S. president had attended at least one of Diddy's exclusive fundraisers, the same kind of events where surveillance tapes were allegedly rolling, the same kind of nights where guests gave up more than just their privacy. Jamie made it clear he didn't know what happened at those events, but the implication was enough. The reach of the machine wasn't limited to Hollywood. It extended into politics, policy, and beyond. The message from the agent was clear. If you go public, you won't just be up against Diddy, you'll be up against the entire system. And for a moment, Jamie considered staying silent. Who wouldn't? He wasn't afraid of losing work anymore. He was afraid of losing his life. But then came the breaking point. The moment he could no longer carry the weight of silence. This isn't about revenge, Jamie said through tears. It's about stopping something that's been hidden for too long. He wasn't just testifying against a man. He was testifying against a machine. And that machine had no off switch. As Jamie Foxx's testimony drew to a close, the courtroom wasn't just silent, it was paralyzed. The jury, the press, the gallery, everyone sat still, as if afraid to breathe too loudly. What had started as whispers in Hollywood's back rooms had now been spoken under oath, in a federal courtroom, by one of the industry's most respected voices. And Jamie wasn't done yet. He told the court about the final straw, a late-night call from an actress, someone America adored. She had also stayed at the mansion. She had also received a flash drive. She was in tears. The footage showed her unconscious, someone standing over her. She didn't know what happened. She didn't know if anyone would believe her. And Jamie didn't know what to say. Before stepping down from the witness stand, Jamie said something that chilled the room. They don't just collect secrets. They manufacture silence. They build cages out of your worst moments. And then they hold the key. He spoke of the spell, how powerful people manipulate not with violence, but with fear. Not by erasing lives, but by erasing relevance. Careers, legacies, entire histories wiped from the public eye. And he admitted why he stayed silent for so long. Not because he was weak, not because he was complicit, but because he was scared. You don't understand the reach this man has, he said. It's not just music, it's surveillance, it's control. He makes people disappear, not physically, but culturally. And if you ask around, you'll hear the same story. People iced out, projects shelved, entire careers buried. But Jamie couldn't stay quiet anymore. The weight was too heavy, the secrets too toxic. If something happens to me, he told the court, I want the world to know. I told the truth. When he left the stand, even the jurors, stoic and trained to remain neutral, looked shaken. Some wiped away tears. The courtroom remained still, not out of respect, but out of reckoning. This wasn't just the unraveling of a celebrity's image, it was the exposure of something bigger. An empire not built on talent or hard work, but on secrets, surveillance, and silence. And now, the spell is broken.